Well, 20 years ago today, the first prisoners arrived in Guantanamo Bay, the detention camp that was set up by the U.S. following the 9/11 attacks and the ensuing invasion of Afghanistan. In a clear breach of human rights, most prisoners were held indefinitely without trial. DW's Oliver Sallin went to the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo and the camp that some say has come to symbolize one of the biggest U.S. moral failings in the war on terror.
Guantanamo, located in a tropical paradise, but the U.S. naval base in Cuba stands for human rights abuses and torture. Mohamedou Old-Slahi was held here for 14 years, suspected of involvement in the 9/11 attacks, but never charged for a crime. He was brutally tortured and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder until today.
3-4 nights ago, I woke up and I was shaking, so scared, because I saw my jacket on the door, and I thought it was someone coming to get me. And it took me a very long time. Sometimes I wake up, I cannot breathe.
Defense counsel Anthony Natale represents an alleged al-Qaeda terrorist who arrived here in 2006 and since then has been waiting for his trial. Guantanamo has been seen internationally as a stain on American history. So where does that place here put the United States?
We are ashamed that everything that made this country one that we could say was a free country, that had equal justice for all, has abandoned all of that. And that's sad. It's sad. And I don't know how we're going to be able to recover.
Guantanamo was built after the 9/11 attacks. The U.S. government aimed for a forceful and rapid response.
The United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
In the war on terror, America and its allies invaded Afghanistan. The U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay served as a prison for alleged war criminals and terror suspects, a place where the Constitution of the United States does not exist. Ever since it was opened, human rights activists argue Guantanamo is where the U.S. lost its moral authority, a place of torture and double standards that is mostly off limits for our camera. But there's also another side of Guantanamo, a place where 6,000 inhabitants try to go about their everyday lives in a bizarre contrast to the infamous prison. Residential areas resemble small-town America, some normalcy in a place full of contradictions. Radio Gitmo delivers the soundtrack for Guantanamo, and she is Gitmo's voice.
Hey, you're Gitmo. Hello. Welcome to your morning show with DJ Candles, otherwise known as Petty Officer Annalisa.
Court trials and the prison are not part of their coverage.
It's not really part of like the culture here, you know. That's another side of the base. Here on this side, we have a whole different type of operations going here.
The new school allows its students somewhat of a normal childhood, 5 kilometers from the notorious torture prison.
Good. Okay, what are some other things that you know about Native Americans?
That's actually the message that Guantanamo Bay sent to the whole world. They said there are two kinds of people in this world, people who don't deserve the rule of law, like Muslim young people, and people who deserve the rule of law.
Out of almost 800 former detainees, 39 are still incarcerated in Guantanamo. Only 2 have been convicted of a crime.
Well, my next guest is Cliff Sloan. He is an attorney and American diplomat who served as the special envoy for Guantanamo's closure under former President Obama. It's good to have you on the program, Mr. Sloan. We wanted to talk with you today because you were the man, you were put in charge of closing Guantanamo back in 2013. You quit the job after 18 months. Talk to us about your experience. I mean, what was the biggest obstacle then in shutting down the prison?
Well, the obstacles that have come up with Guantanamo closure are political opposition that is irrational and not based on fact, and some legal obstacles based on laws unwisely passed by Congress. But having said that, there is no reason that we cannot move forward with closing Guantanamo. And actually, it's important to note that we made a lot of progress. When I became special envoy for Guantanamo closure, there were 166 people remaining at Guantanamo. When President Obama left office, there were 41, and as we just heard, there are 39 now. And the reason I emphasize that is because sometimes there's fatalism and a sense of defeat, and we absolutely can and must move forward aggressively on moving the remaining people out of Guantanamo. It can be done despite any obstacles.
Where would they be sent, Mr. Sloan? Where would you send them?
Well, okay, so of the 39, 12 are facing charges in the military commissions process, including 2 that were convicted. 27 have never faced charges. Those 27, unfortunately, there still is a law that they can't go to the United States, but they can either be repatriated to their country of origin, or if that's not possible for national security or human rights reasons, they can be resettled in third countries, as has been done with other detainees. And when I say transfer them, I'm not saying transfer to incarceration. I'm saying transfer to freedom. Those 27 should be transferred to other countries. It's difficult to work that out, but it is something that is very important. It can be done. In the first year of the Biden administration, there's only one person that has moved from Guantanamo, and that is just far too slow a pace.
And what's the problem? I just want to be sure, though, of the people that you would like to see transferred, do we know how many cannot go back to their home countries because their home countries simply refuse to take them?
No, I mean, those numbers are not a matter of public record. But, you know, that sometimes is used as an excuse. It sometimes is said, oh, the reason they're still at Guantanamo is because there's no place for them to go. And in my experience, that simply is not correct. As I was saying, it takes a lot of work. But other countries, including countries in Europe and countries elsewhere in the world, who recognize that Guantanamo needs to be closed and that these people need a place to go to, have provided resettlement opportunities. So it can be done. This line that you hear sometimes that, well, they're there because there's no place for them to go is simply wrong. Homes can be found for them.
Mr. Sloan, I've got 30 seconds now. People around the world that are looking at this and saying, you've got these people there 20 years after setting up this prison. Why haven't you brought them to the U.S., charged them with a crime, and tried them like you're supposed to do when you're respecting the rule of law?
Well, in terms of bringing them to the U.S., unfortunately, Congress passed a law that they cannot be brought to the U.S. for any purpose, including a prosecution. There is this military commission process, and 12 of them have faced charges there. That process has had many, many problems itself. The reason the others haven't been brought to trial there is there simply is not the evidence to do so, and that is why they need to be transferred out of Guantanamo immediately.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we're still talking about this situation 20 years later. Cliff Sloan, Obama's former envoy for the closure of Guantanamo, joining us tonight from Washington. Mr. Sloan, good talking with you. Thank you.